Just one day to go until the first-in-the-nation primary. And new daily tracking polling out of New Hampshire shows that Donald Trump is leading Republicans with 34%, though he's lost 2 points. Florida Senator Marco Rubio is down 1 point, now tied with Texas Senator Ted Cruz at 13%. In the meantime, Rubio has been a big target for his opponents. Now, he's also taking heat for his debate performance on Saturday night, where he repeated the same line nearly verbatim several times. Listen to what some of those opponents are saying about him.
He's so scripted. He's so gifted. He's a great speaker, but he came across as totally scripted and kind of robotic. And he just missed the sense of the question was about leadership. Can you make a tough decision? And Marco is gifted, but he's never had the chance to actually make a tough decision like governors do.
You got to be tested. You got to be prepared. You got to be experienced. You got to be ready. And quite frankly, that's what I tried to show the folks last night, that I am tested and prepared and ready. And what I've been saying all week about Senator Rubio was on full display last night. He's just simply not ready, Chris. He's a good guy, but he is not ready to be president of the United States.
Well, during the debate, Senator Rubio and Governor Christie, well, they got into a pretty heated exchange. Watch.
Chris, your state got hit by a massive snowstorm 2 weeks ago. You didn't even want to go back. They had to shame you into going back. And then you stayed there for 36 hours, and then he left and came back to campaign. Those are the facts. Here's the bottom line. This notion that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing is just not true.
There it is.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
There it is, the memorized 25-second speech.
Well, that's
there
the
it is,
reason why this can't.
But Rubio is defending his performance, standing by every single word he said.
Actually, I would pay them to keep running that clip, because that's what I believe passionately. It's one of the reasons why I'm not running for re-election to the Senate and I'm running for president. Look, we raised more money last night in the first hour of that debate than any other debate. As far as that message, I hope they keep running it, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's true.
All right, Senator, I couldn't help but notice your reaction to that back and forth between Christie and Rubio. What was going through your mind?
Well, I thought that Christie took advantage of what I think was clearly an error on Marco's part. And by the way, since my beloved friend Lindsey Graham is out, I'm not supporting any individual. So I think it obviously hurt Marco. I think it was, I don't know why he kept repeating the same thing, but he's also got a lot of good things going for him. He's very articulate. He has a great story. He is really good on foreign policy, national security. So it's hard to gauge exactly how much that might have hurt him, which brings up the larger point. It seems to me with these debates, as important as they are, rather than what a candidate stands for and what their policies are and what they're going to do for America, did they screw up in a exchange or did they not
say... Is that any
say...
different, though, than history has shown?
But I think that it's got taken on more importance, the performance over record and other things. And frankly, a lot of it has to do with the Trump attraction. We have these very high ratings, as you know, partially due to the Trump appeal. And so it's, I think debates are really important, but I also think examination of people's records and their vision for the country is important.
What you're pointing to, that style over substance, I also wonder if it's not part of this gotcha culture that we're in right now, which is fueled by the incessant conversation that people who even remain anonymous want to have on social media. I'm curious.
A good example of that is that Donald Trump says he's going to deport 11 million people. And then isn't it a legitimate question whether you agree with him or disagree with him? How do you do that? How do you actually deport? Yeah, but nobody seems to ask him, and when they do, he says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it."
That doesn't mean, by the way, he doesn't have an answer, but it is incumbent on them to ask the question.
Exactly.
So here's my question for you: given the landscape that we see today, some of it is acrimonious, some of it is bluster, some of it is what it's always been, and that's just politicians trying to sell their platforms. Would you ever want to step back in, knowing what you know, having your experience?
No, I think everybody has their time, and I certainly had my opportunity. And for me to get nostalgic and start second-guessing these people, I think, is just inappropriate. I've seen too many politicians who don't know when it's time to step back.
Megan, you've watched your dad run for office. Of course, New Hampshire, Senator, you won twice. That was a state that loved you. And I think a lot of these candidates, they must have your picture on their refrigerator as like their political spirit animal, because they want to do exactly what you did in New Hampshire. First to you, Megan, how important is this state for someone like a Marco Rubio? You saw his performance. Can he afford to not do well in New Hampshire?
He can't afford to not do well in New Hampshire at all. And I have to treat you, Dad, like any other man sitting on this outnumbered right here. I have to push back a little bit about what you said about Marco Rubio, because I think that moment, he sounded like a robot malfunctioning. And it was like he jumped back into his talking points, and he was regurgitating his talking points over and over again, which to me, putting him up against Hillary Clinton, if you can't get off your talking points, that makes me very nervous. So I think it's more than just the news cycle, which is why we have spirited debates at home sometimes. Because I live in like you have a lot of Twitter followers, but I live in the digital age, and that clip, I kept watching it, and it just made me cringe more and more. And I think it's hurting him right now. Kasich is now second in New Hampshire, and I think he actually did a lot of damage on Saturday.
Senator, you raised a very opinionated daughter, and we love her. What do you think?
I cannot push back just because we're related.
Yeah, I understand your point of view there. And by the way, I'm told Lindsey is now supporting Bush, and he tells me that
Lindsey Graham,
and Lindsey tells me that he's moving up too. So, look, one thing I guarantee you about tomorrow evening, you'll be surprised. There is bound to be surprises.
But make a prediction about that, though. I mean, who is this going to be a make or break moment for in New Hampshire?
It's honestly, I've been wrong. I never predicted that Trump would do what he has done.
You have a little experience in the state. How important is New Hampshire?
I think it's really important. I think it's really important, particularly when you look at the sequence of states that are afterwards. The people in New Hampshire really do examine the candidates. You can't buy New Hampshire. There's an old joke about Mo Udall. He was a congressman from Arizona, ran. The guy said, it was his joke. A guy in Concord said to another guy, what do you think about Mo Udall for president? I don't know. I only met him twice. You know, and that is funny because it's true. They expect to see you. The reason why Kasich, I think, is coming up is he had 100 town hall meetings. You know, the other joke, by the way, Mo Udall, he walked into a barber shop in Manchester, New Hampshire, and said, "Hi, I'm Morris Udall from Arizona, and I'm running for president of the United States." And the barber said, "Yeah, we were just laughing about that this morning."
Senator, did you know you were going to win both times?
No. In fact, the undecideds, just like now, it was just a momentum in the last 24 hours.
No, everybody was really nervous.
But if Trump really wins heavily, then that turns upside down this belief that you had to do the 100 town hall meetings and all of the things that you need to do, because he hasn't done that. And I would regret that, because I hope that all who seek the approval of the people would go to New Hampshire and do the on-the-ground campaigning.
You know, one quick thing that I would say is that you talk about those undecided voters. They sure do have a lot of power this time. I mean, it's that state where, as an independent, you can walk in on primary day and do what you want to do with whatever party you choose on that day. That gives them a tremendous amount of power.
Exactly. And the independent voters you mentioned, which way do they go? Do they go in the Sanders-Clinton race, or do they go on the Republican race?
Senator, very, very quickly, we got to go, but if Trump wins, is he unstoppable?
I don't think so, but I certainly think it gives him a boost.
All right.
You can't help it, interpret it any other way.
All right.